Hello and welcome to part 4 in our series on self-hosted implementation of Omeka for librarians. In this video, we're going to actually install Omeka onto our server. In the last video, we had installed all of the components we needed to actually make the Omeka install happen. So now we're going to go back to our instructions on the Omeka website. And here they are. What we need to do next is open up our SSH client, and I'm just going to move the instructions to the side here so I can read from them, and we'll make this full screen. Now the instructions are telling us that we need to change directories. So the very first thing we see is CD. So we'll type in CD, and this means change directory. And when we just type in change CD, it will bring us to the home folder of that user. So it didn't actually change, but if I was in a different directory, this would bring me to the home folder of the library admin user. And we can use another useful command, pwd print working directory. So this is showing us we are in the home directory of library admin. The directories that come before this are the root directory, so it is the top level directory outside of this. Okay, now that we've changed directories, we want to use the wget command, wget, and what you see here is URL for Omeka 2.0. We don't want this. This is an earlier version. If we install it, it could be problematic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up another browser or a new tab under download, new tab, download, and here I am going to right click on the download Omeka 2.5.1, so copy link address. This is the most current version, so when you're following those instructions, always make sure you have the latest release. It's going to make life easier for you if you do. I'm going to close that out and open up my SSH client again. So we're using wget, which is a command saying go out to the internet and get this. If I right click, it automatically pastes the URL there that I copied off of the Omeka page. So we're telling the server that please go to Omeka and grab this zip file. We hit enter, and the download begins. I'm going to move the instructions to the side so that I can follow them and get back to where I am. Okay, so now we have downloaded the file, and we can actually view it by using the command ls. And if we put in -l, we can actually see who owns it and when it was downloaded and all that. So here you'll see the zip file that we just downloaded. We can unzip that file by running the command unzip. And you can start typing it and then hit the tab key, and that will auto-complete for you. Once that is fully typed, we hit enter, and we have unzipped all of the files in the Omeka zip file. Now the instructions are telling us to move the files to a different directory. And here the instructions, we're going to deviate from those a little bit. They're outdated for Ubuntu servers and for Debian servers. So it's telling us that we should move these files into the directory var, into the directory www. We really want to go one step further and go into the directory HTML. That's just the way things are set up now. We do this by going using the sudo command, which means I'm an administrator and I have the privileges to do this. Sudo mv being move, and then Omeka, and actually I'm going to use tab to kind of auto-complete, and then a, a dash, and then a asterisk. And so what this will do, the asterisk is a wildcard that will move every file that has this name and anything else after it to the var www html directory. So I will hit enter, and that has likely moved, and I'm just going to move this up a little. So we're going to do another command that's very similar, only this time, instead of the asterisk, we want to be sure to move the .ht access file, which just helps. This is a file that helps Omeka communicate with the server. If you are on a third-party hosted site, you'll probably have to figure out a workaround, because typically they don't allow these sorts of files. So I'm going to hit enter. ht access, no file or directory. So it may have actually moved with the initial when I used the asterisk. So there's a good oops, nope, that is not the case. So I'm going to do this again, and it's access, two S's, oops, and enter. Okay, so now the ht access file should have been moved to the var www html directory. I want to give that a quick look just to be sure things worked out the way they're supposed to. So I'm going to change directory, and I will look in var www html, and we can use the list command again, ls -l, and enter. So this is a list of all of the files and directories that are in the HTML directory. So if it's kind of purplish, it's a directory, and if it's not, if it's white, it's a file. I'm actually going to go ahead and shrink the font a little bit so that things are displayed a little better. Apply. One more time. Change settings. And appearance, font, 16. That should be good. So now it's a little easier to read. So these are the files that we've just moved to the HTML directory. Next, we're going to delete the old index.html file. So Omeka is now asking us to remove. So if we do sudo rm, and in the instructions it uses var www and so forth. But we're already there. We're already in this directory, so we don't actually have to type out the entire file path. So I'm going to type index.html, and now when we list, the index.html is gone, and we still have our index.php. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to clear my screen before we get moving again. And the next set of instructions is telling us to create a new user group. So to do that, we do sudo group add web dev. So the name of this group is web dev. I've added my group, and now we want our library admin user to be a part of that group. Sudo user mod -a -g web dev and library admin. So whatever your username is, it would go here. So we have added our library admin user to the group web dev. Now we want to go back a directory, and to do that we do cd dot, and that brings us back to the www directory. And now we're changing ownership of this directory as well as all subsequent directories after www. And what I'd like to do is just quickly ls-l, and so you'll see here that right now this is kind of an important thing to understand. You'll see that for the directory HTML, there are two instances here, one of which is the user. So the user root owns HTML, and the group root has access to HTML. So they're kind of co-owners. And why this is important is because it shows what sorts of permissions each entity has. So the root user in this instance has read, write, and execute permissions, while the root group, it's the second part here, has execute and read. So if you are a member of the group root, you can execute and read HTML, but you can't write to it. So you wouldn't be able to add files, and you wouldn't be able to add directories. And what we need to do is change that, and Omeka is giving us the instructions on how to do this. So after we've created our web dev group and we've moved to the www directory, now in the instructions it's the var directory, but again, those are old instructions. Things have changed, and this is the actual directory we want to be in. Now we're going to type sudo chown, so we're going to change owner -r, and that really means recursively, so it's going to go through the directory over and over, all through its various file paths, and make these changes for us. So so we're changing ownership, and we're giving ownership to the user root, and we're giving ownership to the group we just created called web dev, and we're giving those permissions to the directory HTML, which is located here in the www directory. So I'm going to press enter, and so now when I run the ls-l command, you'll see that root is the owner in web dev, which our library admin user is part of, the web dev group, now owns the directory HTML and all subsequent directories. The next thing we're going to do is give better permissions. So what we're seeing here, we'd actually like to change. We're part of the web dev group, and we would like to actually be able to write to the HTML directory. If we can't do that, then there's going to be some problems. So the way to do that is we're at step 5, we're at number 5, give permissions in step 2, and they're telling us to run the command sudo chmod, so chmod 775, and we're going to change HTML. So these are what are referred to as octal permissions, and I don't want to get into the technicalities of that right now. But if you're interested in learning more about this, I'll try to explain it briefly. But if you're interested in learning more, I suggest looking online. They're called octal permissions. This very first number here, the 7, is the highest that can be given for permissions, which is this right here, the read, write, and execute. And what we're doing is the second one, the second 7 here, refers to the group permission. And the group permission right now is XR, but when it gets a 7 permission, it will then have the read, write, and execute. And then we're giving the 5, which I believe is just execute, to any user. So a user that doesn't have root access, or just any user on the system will be able to execute files in the HTML directory. So I'm going to hit enter, and we have changed ownership. So now when we do ls-l, you'll see that the root user has read, write, and execute permissions, and the web dev group has read, write, and execute permissions. So that's a change from what we saw up here. That's what we've done. The next set of instructions has us run the cd change directory, change directory to HTML. It's different in the instructions, but this is kind of the translation of it. I need to go to the HTML directory, and I don't need the /HTML. And if we list everything here, you'll see that the file permissions haven't been changed yet, and that's what we're about to do. But we do have the root user as the owner of all of the files and directories, and the web dev group as owner of all the files and directories, and the various permissions. What we're about to do now is change these permissions, particularly for some of these text files. We're going to need access to them. So the way we do this is sudo find dot dash type d pipe sudo xargs sudo chmod 775, and we'll hit enter. I must have had a typo here somewhere. So let's try this again. Sudo find dot dash type d pipe xargs sudo chmod 775. Okay, so that appears to, oh, I see, I had a typo. I spelled type wrong. Okay, so we've run that command. I'm going to use the up key on my keyboard to repopulate what I have just run as a command. And actually, you can scroll through all of the previous commands that you've done by using the up and down keys, which is a really great feature. So I used the up key to go back, and I'm just going to edit this line, and here I'm going to put in an F, and then I'm going to have a different octal permission. So that is going to be 664, and if we hit enter, that should do it. ls-l, and you'll see that the permissions have changed now. So it looks like here, any kind of directory, anytime we get a directory, we have changed the permissions so that both the root user and the web dev group can read, write, and execute, while the 5 just allows for executing. And for our files, so type F, files, we've changed permissions so that the root user can read and write. The web dev group, anyone who belongs to the web dev group can read and write, and then anyone else can only read the files. So we've gone through and we've changed our permissions there. Next, we're going to change some more, and I'm honestly not sure what we're changing here. I would try to explain it if I could, but I don't know for sure. So we're just going to trust that Omeka knows what they're doing and follow along. Sudo find files dash type. I did it again. Type D and pipe and xargs sudo chmod 777. Boy, I'm really doing a lot of typos. It's 777 and enter. That appears to have gone through, and similarly to what I did above, I'm going to use my arrow key to go up and type F. So apparently we're doing something to directories and files, and put that out, and in this instance we want 666 and enter. Okay, so now we have completed step 2. We've gone through the process of installing Omeka and giving the proper permissions. So in the next video, we're going to create our MySQL database. Hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.